morning, afternoon, evening to you wherever you're watching us from. You're welcome back to another beautiful episode of LR Talks. I go by the name Ajijola Lua Adeni, simply Jade, and it is my delight to be your host on the show today. So, if this is your first time coming across LR Talks, it's about time you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and do well to share. So with me in the studio to take us through this topic is the founder of the Limitless Leadership Innovation and executive director of Elevate Consortium. She is a public speaker. She is a project manager. She is a brand consultant, and she's an advocate for teenage and youthful leadership in the social space. My guest today is none other than the one, the only, Tiolu Anime Obisheso. Good day, Tiolu.
Good afternoon.
How are you doing today?
I mean, it's been an interesting week, but yeah, I'm quite well.
I am very delighted to have you in the studio today.
Honestly, I'm super excited too.
Yes. So today we're going to be going through a very interesting topic, like I mentioned earlier. And before I go on, I'd like you to put yourself in a situation. Let's take a scenario. You're in a situation and you have the opportunity to call one friend to meet you at the location where you are at a certain time. Now, if the person comes on or before time, you're safe. But if the person comes late, you get to win instant cash of $1 million. Who are you calling, my people? Tiolu, who are you calling?
Okay, I know in my watch this video, so I'll just cast him publicly. So I have an amazing friend and photographer. His name's Olu Tims. I'll definitely call Olu Tims. I doubt it might come 10 minutes past or 15 minutes past, but that exact time, I honestly doubt it would be known. That is going to show up at the exact time.
So who are you calling? Our topic today is the African time mentality. You heard me right. The African time mentality. Who is that one friend that I saw that they are going to show up late to their wedding ceremony? Share this video with them. Let them be a part of this. Sit back, relax. It's about to be a very, very interesting ride. So Tiolu, just to break down the topic and let people who do not understand what the African time mentality means, because I've heard people say that they just feel like it's the normal West African time thing that they see when people want to have events and all of that. So I just want us to break it down. What does the African time mentality actually mean?
Okay, so to a large extent, I believe that a lot of people see the African time as, an understanding that when you give a time for an event, a time for something, a time for a meeting, it's a suggestion rather than a commitment. So they believe that, okay, you're suggesting that, it can start around that period, or you're suggesting that it can come from that period without understanding that we are saying that you should be there on or before that period. So I always say that if you cannot commit yourself to a particular activity, event, or meeting, then don't accept it. Right? Because saying that you are accepting it means that you're committing to that time and means that you're going to be there as soon as possible. So yes, the mentality is basically seen, a lot of Nigerians or Africans seeing that stipulated time. For example, if you say 12 p.m. to say, it's a suggestion, they will start, let's say 1 p.m., 2 p.m. and all like that. So yes, thank you.
All right. So still on, the fact that it's an African thing, I'd like us to talk about the cultural perspective of time.
Okay.
I believe that Africans see time as something that is very flexible. We're not concerned. It takes a very, structured environment for you to actually keep to time. And even in the structured environment, many people don't actually keep to time. So what do you think is the cultural perspective of time in Africa?
So just like I said earlier, they see it as a suggestion, but I also feel like beyond that, it has become a norm. Right, it has become a lifestyle, and that's because a lot of us are doing it. Right, and the truth is, even if you are not that kind of person, after a while, when you live in a certain environment where everybody's doing something, you would unconsciously adjust to that. Right, if, for example, if in your workplace, they say that your time is 10 a.m. But then in that place, people are coming by 10:30, 11, and the truth truth is, for you're a kind of person that you like to come on before that time. But over time, because you've seen that happen again and again and again, automatically you adjust to that. So in line of that, when we say something is a culture, it means that it's a way of life.
Yes.
So it means that people are doing it. And so unconsciously, you start doing the same thing. So I believe that as Nigerians, as Africans, if we want to truly come to that place where we're saying that we're an excellent society, we're a prosperous society, it's high time we address this thing, because I believe strongly that time is money.
Yeah.
All right. So, and this is my belief, this is my perspective, all right, that the reason why, one of the reasons why Nigeria is where we are right now is because we don't prioritize our time. So the cultural system also affects our level of productivity. For example, one of the reasons I also believe why Lagos is one of the highest grossing cities in Nigeria is because they also prioritize time. For example, I have lived in Ibadan, I have lived in Lagos. And in Lagos, if you wake up by 6, 7, my God, the roads are booming. Like everybody's moving at a fast pace. But in Ibadan, by 6 a.m., 7 a.m., you would rarely see people moving around or, going about their businesses. So I believe that as much as possible, if we are truly going to, move forward as a nation, as a continent, it's about time that we correct this way of life. It's about time that we correct this culture so that we can move towards prosperity and ultimately beyond African time, we can move to African excellence as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. Now you work in, the professional space, you work in social space. How do you think that, this whole not prioritizing our time thing affects us Nigerians, affects us Africans in the professional space and the social space as well?
Okay, so based off my last point, I'll just build on that. How that I said that we're actually losing money because they say time is money. But I also like to just address, founders, entrepreneurs now as much as possible. If you are truly going to say that you want to address this thing, I think one of the things you want to do is to also ensure that you're on time. If you want a staff that is on time, you want staff members that are on time, you want to ensure that, you're also on time, right? Because I believe that people naturally follow you. Unconsciously, people follow you as a leader. So whether as a professional, whether as a social entrepreneur, you want to ensure that you build what you want to see. People unconsciously mirror you as a leader, as an entrepreneur. Even your clients mirror you. The way you address them, sometimes they also address you in the same in the same way. So I found out many times the way you act, unconsciously, people mirror all of that. So also as entrepreneurs, also as, corporate professionals, we want to address that by ensuring that we ourselves, we are doing the right thing. And beyond that, I believe that one of these that we want to address is to ensure that as much as possible, we punish lateness. I think that's something that people don't say. We penalize lateness. People don't say it a lot, but I think it's about time. So and one of the things in my event, I try to enforce it that, and even this year we're enforcing more, once you come by a certain time, the doors are locked. So if you are coming in by that time, it's obvious that, okay, you are late. And I know that people by natural inclinations will not want to be entering a place and they're the ones opening the door and screeching and everything. So I feel as much as possible, we should actually make sure that there's a notice that if you're coming after this time, the door is locked. If you're coming after this time, this is the penalty for coming. As much as possible, we can curb that. And we should also reward timeliness. This is me also telling, everybody that they are, maybe you're my employer or something. Please, when I come on time, please just reward. What I mean reward, please, I mean like money.
Okay.
Because I have to not say this. I mean like reward me with, money and, I really appreciate that word. And that's just in light. Please, as much as possible, reward timeliness. I believe it's also encouraging us to, do the same too, as much as possible. So, yeah.
But not only discussing the downside, has African time ever been of advantage to you? Like, at any point in time?
Okay, yes. So as someone that plans events, I can say that there are some times whereby some things are not yet set up, some things are not yet in place. One or two things are not even people come late now, but maybe something is not around at that venue and that you cannot start. But thankfully, people will come late. So because they come late, there's really no big
sure that you can get things done
before they come. So yeah, sometimes times like that, it has actually favored me. Yeah.
Okay. I believe so much that you're learning from this. Reward timeliness. Reward me too when I'm timely.
Sorry,
like money
I said it first. I actually said it first. So if you need my account number, reach out to them. They would,
I'm still in the line. Reward me too.
don't mind me, please.
So moving on, I'd like us to talk about, the implication on personal growth. If a person has, you said once it is culture, it has become a lifestyle. Now, how do you think that the African time mentality could affect a person's personal growth? Now, if I make it a habit, if I make it a way of life, how would it affect my personal growth?
So I always like to say that your personal, beyond your personal growth, also your personal brand. I always like to say that people's perception of you starts from the littlest things. All right. And it also starts to you keeping to time. It starts by you saying that you'll be at the place at a certain time and you're actually there. And I like to just say in simple terms, that's actually integrity, right? So if you cannot say you'll be at my office by 12 p.m. and you get there by 12 p.m., what's the assurance that you won't cheat me in transaction? All right. So I always say that as much as possible, one of the things that you want to do as a person is to ensure that you actually work on it. Why? Because if you do not pay attention to it, what you're doing is you're losing people's trust. And over time, if you tell me that you're coming by 12 p.m., because I know that you never keep to your words, I would not believe you. But what you don't know is the fact that you also stems into other areas. It stems into, you're saying that I'm meant to give you 5 million naira for a service, because I know that you don't keep to your word. I'm like, are you sure you're really spending 5 million naira, or you just want to, play, just want to play a funny game with me? So as much as possible, when you are looking at your personal life, your personal growth, one of the things that you want to see or you want to prioritize is actually this thing called trust, right? You want to ensure that you protect your name. People say that it's just about you being a good name, but protecting a good name starts from you showing up on time. And I believe that the more you show up, the more people can trust you, the more they can give you services, the more they can give you jobs, the more they can actually say, the more they can recommend you, right? I believe that there's some people that you never recommend in your life because you don't think that they would, show up on time. I don't think that they would actually be there at the time that you said they'd be there. So you rather not recommend them for opportunities. I can tell you that you are leaving money, opportunities, and so many things on the table because you're not prioritizing this thing called time, and because you're not prioritizing, people don't trust you, and eventually, you don't have the money that you need, and you're broke. So please don't be broke.
All right. So do you think that there is a difference between the way the older generation view time and the way we in the younger generation view time? Or do you think that the African time mentality has, been passed down so much that we also don't regard our time?
So I believe that question is actually not a one-size-fits-all kind of answer, right? Because different strokes for different people, right? For a family, it could be that their parents were timely and the children are not timely. For another family, it could be like their parents were the ones that were not timely and the children were actually timely. So the truth is, whether I like it or not, yes, people pick up things from family members because your first point of socialization is actually your family, right? But I have also seen people break out of that, right? That they do not follow that pattern, right? So I would not say that it's a parental thing, and I would not say that the generation before was more timely than us. I would just say that it is now a communal thing, right? How that I think people even use it when they are convenient, because the truth is, if actually you want to get somewhere early, you actually get there early. What do I mean? If you catch a flight to USA, for example, your very first time traveling, not like I know you traveler, like your very first time, and they tell you that flight time is 7 a.m. Be very honest. What time you get there? Most likely you get there like 5 a.m. Yes, I see people that even sleep overnight. Right? I see people that actually sleep overnight. So I would like to say that it has actually been passed down. It's more of a communal thing than a parental thing, right? So it can be passed down, but also it might not be passed down. So it's not a one size fits all, kind of question, but it's a two-way thing, right? So it's not a three-way thing, even however I want to say it, right? But yeah, it's not a one size fits all.
Do you think that from all of this, like there's the globalization that has brought punctuality and all of that, and then we have our African time mentality to deal with? Do you think there can be the emergence of an hybrid approach to time, where people can still do the African time thing and meet up with global standards?
So I feel like that's what a lot of young people are doing today, whether we know it or not, right? We choose it, just like I said my last answer, we choose when it's convenient for us to use African time. But we know that when you're working in global spaces, you dare not. You dare no, you cannot. Because you know that this actually for a lot of people that are working with international organizations and they are paying you in dollars, I don't want to lose your job. I mean, if you're earning in dollars right now, you're a baller. Let's be very honest, right? And that means that you don't want to lose your job to a large extent. And so you place value on it. I think I'd like to just take a little bit of time on what I just said about value. So I believe that because most times the value that you place on a thing determines how punctual you are to that thing. All right. So many times because you value global opportunities, you value certain things, you actually are punctual to them. But if you not value, for example, coming to the office, you don't value, for example, seeing your parents, you don't value, those things are very minute, or coming to church, right? You would actually come late to those things. So I always say that many times your value system, right, reflects in how well you are punctual to that thing, right? So the value you place upon a certain thing, if I say a certain system, reflects in how, punctual you are to it. So I feel like right now we're actually operating a system whereby we use the African time when it is convenient. A lot of us, we use it as an excuse. I don't want to show up here, but we know that where we need to be at that place at that time, we actually show up. And then most importantly, it's actually a value thing. It's a value thing. If you value somebody, or if you respect somebody, for example, and this is, we're going to be very honest, if the president of Nigeria calls you, I'm never saying Donald Trump now, let's not go too far. President of Nigeria calls you that you should come to Aso Rock, right? Tomorrow morning. I am 100% sure that you get there 1 hour before the time. At least 1 hour before the time. Even if they said that there was a flight that moves on something, you would ensure that you find another flight that can take you, at that point in time. You do everything within your means. And I think there's a time that we approach, that same way. We approach everything that same way, right? We prioritize things that same way. I think, like I said at the beginning, I said that if you are not going to be committed to it, then don't commit to it, right? But if you say they're going to be there, then ensure that you treat it a certain level of respect, value, right? As you treat any other thing that seems like it's highly placed, in your life. And I believe that this thing is a daily thing. It's a daily thing, right? From your little things like, oh, mommy, I'll meet you by 4 p.m. And say, Mom, my mom will not mind now. I know that she'll do this, but I feel like right now we're actually operating, just like I said, hybrid. We use it when it's convenient, and we know that there's some opportunities that we dare not come late as a way.
To those spaces. So the value you place on a certain event, a certain place, a certain person would tell in how early you're able to show up.
I mean, I think I'll give another example, personal example, right? The very first time that Pastor Yadebo invited me, right, or were to give me a gift, I remember, my God, I had a day before. Normally you say that's late notice, I'm not meant to. I remember that I left what I was doing. I was in school. So you can imagine. I left what I was doing and I ensured that I was at that place at least like 3 hours before the time. Because I respect him.
Yeah.
I mean, I respect who he is, right? So I ensure that I got there as early as possible and just sat down. There's a way you will sit at those places. You will sit down like
very cute,
very demure. I was very, my composure was 100%. And my stills too. In the end, I was just very, calm and collected. But I realized that, like I said, it's also because I respect him. Yeah. Right. So
the value
I place, on him and the other person. So
All right, so I'd like us to get a little bit practical for people at home.
Okay.
Now, if you have an event by 7 a.m., what time would you set your alarm to?
Are you asking me?
Yes, personally.
Oh, if I have an event by 7 a.m., I will set my alarm to 5 a.m. Actually, I'll set my alarm to 7 a.m. 7 a.m. I'll set my alarm to 5 a.m. because for someone like me, it takes me like 1 hour to prepare. And I don't know why, but most times wherever I live, usually far from the rest of the world. And it happens to me while I was living in Ibadan, same thing in Lagos. I mean, so if you're living in a place like Shomolu, I don't know, just for those that don't understand Lagos, just allow me to say, like, you're living at 1 hour distance. You're living in Shomolu, you're going to Lekki. Lekki is almost like a 1 hour distance. So if you want to get to the place by 7 a.m., you have to wake up by 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Get dressed and everything by 6 a.m. Leave your house rather by 6 a.m. and I should get it by 7. So I would always set my alarm at least 2 hours before.
Before the time.
That's
very great. Now, for someone who, plans events attends events, works in the social space, in professional space. What is the most hilarious excuse you have heard for lateness?
I won't call it hilarious. I just call it nonsensical. I mean, my word. I mean, and this I'm not an atheist. I believe God, right? I mean, I love God. So please don't think that this response, for someone to tell me that they are running late because they went to church. Nigeria is a very religious society, and it is very beautiful, right? But I think that you must learn to understand that when it is business, it's business.
Yeah.
When it's time for church, it's time for church. So don't say that you are running late for your business or for an event because you went to church. I am honestly, especially when it comes to professional space. I mean, you reach out to a vendor or reach out to somebody, an entrepreneur, and they tell you that, oh, I couldn't be there because I went for video. I have actually had that experience, and I'm like, ow. I mean, for me, from that kind of person, immediately I just can't say, don't worry, don't bother coming. Because I'm like, I'm also a Christian. I just know that there are certain systems and there are certain time, there's a time for everything. Let me just get that, right? There's a time for everything. And you must learn to respect each system for each system, right? Even scripture says, give unto Caesar what is of Caesar, right? So you know that if you're working in the professional space, so if you are an entrepreneur, you're meant to be up and early. Don't say you went to church. I mean, I believe strongly that a lot of Nigerians don't know how to balance, their beliefs as a religious person, either you're a Muslim, Christian, traditionalist, I believe nobody, right? But whatever religion that you are playing, right? I just want to say that ensure that your excuse is not religion, because Nigeria is a very religious place, and I understand, right? Most people actually understand. So, we went to church. Why? I'm like, people abroad don't understand.
My pastor always says, never use church as an excuse to not deliver, because you get to places where you get opportunities and you suddenly mess it up. And the funny thing is, many of us are employed in that circle, like in that church circle. So he's like our boss and our pastor at the same time. You cannot, as your pastor, you cannot come late to church, and as your boss, you cannot leave work undone.
And I shared that experience too. Actually, last year, my pastor was also my boss, or my pastors were my boss. And it was very interesting. And I think it made me respect them more, and it made me just understand that you can be on time. You can actually, and even if you are running late, learn to communicate ahead. I think that's another thing that people don't know how to do. So you are running late, a simple, I'm so sorry, this is what is happening right now. I always tell people that you can never over communicate. You can never over communicate. There's nothing about, I'm communicating too much. No, you don't do that. As much as possible, you are running late, ensure that you send a message ahead, right? So I saw that play with with my pastors and also who were my bosses then. I will see that they were having a meeting. I mean, these people have meetings and they travel a lot. They are very, high-ranking people, and I respect them a lot. And I saw the way they were juggling, their responsibilities, and still, on Wednesday, they're in church. On Sunday, they're in church. So imagine someone that traveled to, for example, China, maybe like a day before, and then on Sunday, you're like, Pastor will not get to church, and maybe he's tired or something. And then he got to church before, you're like, okay, now there's a problem somewhere, right? And it just made me respect them. Made me also imbibe, right values. And I think that thing about, being in the right environment also helps, right? I know that even, I'm a punctual person normally, but working with them influenced me. Working with them made me start viewing time in a different light entirely. So yes, I think that one of the things that as leaders we want to do is to ensure that we create a template and a sample, right, of timeliness. Unconsciously, we are creating a template and a sample for a generation to actually live by. So yeah, I know that we're going to another endpoint entirely, but yeah.
But I think it still goes back to, how much value you place on a certain, thing or place. If they didn't place, value on church, on their responsibilities in church, they would not do everything they can to make it to church. And at the same time, if they did not place value on work, they would not make it work too. And like I said, I'm not even the general things now, even the minute things. For example, when I tell my boss, permit me to mention her name, I was trying not to, but I think I want to. SDJ, if I tell SDJ, oh, I want to have a meeting with you by so and so time,
SDG will be ready 5 minutes to that time. And I'm like, I know you are very occupied. Why are you ready 5 minutes to the time, right? And it just made me also learn that thing, right? If there's an unsaid rule that we all, maybe a said rule that we all have. If you are there on time, you are late. If you are there on time, you are late. So if you want to be early, ensure that you are there at least 5 minutes before the time.
Before time.
Whatever it is you're doing, ensure that you are there 5 minutes before the time. And honestly, as simple as saying, oh, Tolu, we're going to have a conversation by 5. Sometimes it's just for us to banter and gist. Not like we're having any serious conversation. But still, the timeless of that, that commitment amazes me and has been very, has been very pivotal to also me prioritizing time as a person.
Just draw from what you said. You have implied that your environment could also influence how you view time.
Yes.
And how much you prioritize your timing and how much value you place on everything that has to do with your time. Now, what is the most outrageous African time mentality experience you have had? You have had so far in your dealings with people?
I mean, I think it would be about an event. I mean, so yeah, I speak a lot, right? You tell me to get to an event, or they told me to get to an event. They told me to get to an event by 10 a.m.
Okay.
I got there at 10 a.m. I'll speak by 10:30, but this event did not start until 1 p.m.
1 p.m.
Yes. I know that a lot of things happened. There were a lot of technical issues, but still, I just feel like, that was what happened to having a dry run the day before to ensure that all of that did not happen, right? And I mean, it was wow, right? And thinking about it right now is still like a lot for me, but yeah, that was quite wild, for lack of a better word right now.
You had an expectation.
Yeah.
I think it's a very important question. You had an expectation. You were supposed to speak by 10:30 a.m., but somehow you were not able to speak by 10:30 a.m. You probably spoke by 1:30 p.m. Now, how do you, in the business world, in the professional world, in the social space, how do you balance your expectations and the fact that, people will still come with the African time mentality?
So I've learned to communicate. So for that event, I told them before, and that if anything at all, I actually leave. I told them the time I was actually meant to leave. I know because I'm trying to be proud, trust me, that was not it. Because most times I have other commitments. So I told them that I had to be here from this time, 10 to 12. And 12 because I know that I had to be around, to discuss other and listen to other, speakers. So if you're not there, the only reason why I still spoke at that event was because of the kind of relationship I shared with the person that, so I had to go and then come back, to take my session. So I tell that as much as possible, the way to actually avoid that or to mitigate that scenario is to communicate. Let them know that I'll be coming by this time. I am a punctual person. So that means that I'll most likely come to your event or to your office at least 5 minutes or maybe 30 minutes before your event. Please ensure that you keep to time. And if it does not happen that way, are you fine with me cutting short my speaking time? Or are you fine with me leaving without speaking? And the truth is, for most times, they paid me. So it is their loss. So yeah, but yeah.
All
Just
right.
communicating. I believe that communicating a lot, right? I always say that the lowest level of knowledge is assumption. Assuming that the other person knows that you are going to be late, or that person is going to be timely. So as much as possible, communicate. I communicate again and again and again. Ensure that you let them know that this is my stance. Are you fine with it? Can we go ahead with it? I believe it will actually help you to navigate that scenario. So yeah.
Now, this has been a very, very nice episode. And I am very, very, very delighted that you came to the studio today. Thank you very much for taking us through this topic. But before we go, do you have any final words for our people at home?
Okay, I think one of the things we need to correct in Nigeria and even Africa is the fact that we need to learn to prioritize precision over presence. A lot of us believe that when you are to be at a venue or you are to be at a meeting, as long as I'm there, it's fine. Let me just go show face. All right, let me just show face and pop out and I'm good, right? And not understanding that I think that if I'm going to show face, I would have communicated earlier that I am actually coming to your event to show face. All right, so the person doesn't have an expectation of my God, Chidi's coming for the event and stay. No, they know that I'm coming because I love you so much. I just wanted to let you feel my presence. So as much as possible, learning to differentiate between precision and presence. If you are going to be there for present, then communicate ahead to say, oh, I am going to be there to just show you support, to ensure that I register my presence with you, as a person. But if you say that you're going to be there for the event, for the meeting, and you are very precise about it, ensure that, you are actually there at that specific time, at that precise time, as it were. And I believe that change starts with you, right? If you're going to change this African mentality thing or African time thing, right, and thing, we need to, as much as possible, start by ourselves, start prioritizing it, right? Because if you can prioritize time as a person, invariably people see you and also mirror and model what you're doing. Learn to call out people on their lateness. Learn to ensure that, because usually people actually do it again and again if you don't speak about it. A lot of times we just say, you just overlook or look the other way. As much as possible, what you don't address will not get corrected. I have learned again and again while working as an entrepreneur, as a student entrepreneur, different spaces, right? That most times what you don't address would actually continue, right? So as much as possible, when you see someone that person is coming late, or person came late, for example, if you come late to my event, I might not say it sternly, but people that know, I'll tell you, why did you come late? Even if you're a speaker. Thankfully, a lot of people that are watching this, if we worked there early, you come late, I will be very firm. Why did you come late? Right? I would actually call you out, right? And I will address it right and there, because unconsciously, a lot of us are not addressing, we're not calling it out. So we are taking it as a norm, right? And because you don't call it out, we just continue in that flow, right? So as much as possible, ensure that you are timely and ensure that you also call out people when they are late. As much as possible, this is my advice to everybody, use your phone. Use technology. Let me just say that. Use technology, right? And as much as possible, ensure that you set alarms. If alarm doesn't work for you, use what I call public accountability. What do I mean? It might seem extreme, but I think it's also good. You can make a tweet or make a post online to say, oh, I'm meant to do this by so and so time. If I don't, call me out. That actually works for me, right? I don't do it that way, but that actually works for me. For example, another light, but I think he also fits into this. If I'm to run an event, and I know that I want to have that event happen 2025, what I would do is to do a flyer and tell my team, do this flyer. If the flyer is out, there's no how I will have the event. Why? Because I know that my brand is at stake. So I know that, see, there's something called public accountability that can really work for you, right? Learn to set yourself up for success. There's a way that you actually program yourself by actually telling people to say, if I actually come late 3 times in a week, charge me or collect 3,000 naira from me. For example, and the truth is you don't want to lose money. Nobody wants to lose money. Or say, oh, I am owing you lunch. Now, God should bless you. You are always someone like me, lunch that doesn't eat. I like good food, let me just say that. So because I like good food, that means that you cannot buy me food that is not standard, and you have to really, So that means that, if you allow someone like me to, please allow me, let me be your accountability partner, by the way. that was just, by the side. But please, ensure that you put in systems that actually make you accountable, and I believe that will actually help every other person. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you so very much. I really hope you have learned today. If you did not learn anything from this show today, I'd like you to keep in mind that punctuality would show how much value you actually place on a person, an event, or a place. And please share your own experiences in the comment section. What is your most outrageous, experience with the African time mentality? Let us know in the comment section. This is the right time to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and do well to share as well. So that person you're sure is going to be late to their wedding ceremony. I'll see you on the next episode of LR Talks. I remain your humble host, Jade. Bye.
Bye.